Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me today. This is the watch list for Thursday, July 6th. I put these watch lists out for you guys for free every single day. I'm not going to waste a whole bunch of time. I want to run right through this stuff. Before we do though, this screen you see here, this is TradingView. If you guys are new to trading and you don't have something like this, you may want to look at getting something like this. Luckily for you, in the description below, I have a link that will get you a free 30-day trial to the subscription-based services on TradingView. And then if you decide to use TradingView and you've used that link, you get up to $30 off, I believe it is. It might be $15. I don't quite recall, but you get some money off just for clicking that link before you sign up. So you can do that now, or you can do it after the video, or if you already have TradingView, fantastic, or something like it, even better. Let's get started on this list. The first one I have got on here for you guys is SPY. Okay, so SPY, we looked at having it as this inside bar, the break of the inside bar today. It opened, it gapped. So you would have had to use a gap play for this if you were going to use it. But again, we have a setup today again. So we have the 2 down, finish green. So we're going to look again for SPY to trend back to the upside with time frame continuity. As I've always told you guys, if there is a setup on SPY on the daily chart, it will always be on my top 5 that I give to the Griswold Gold members. NEO. Okay, we talked about NEO yesterday as well. This trigger line was here. We did not break it. We stayed inside. So when we talk about inside bars, guys and gals, when we talk about inside bars don't break the high and they do not break the low of the previous candle. They stay within that range. So I'm going to put the targets here, and I'm just going to change that one to green. We stay within the range of the previous candle. We don't break the high, we don't break the low, and it's a consolidating range and it's a tightening range. And you can see it's painted yellow. That's part of my indicator. It can be purchased separately, or it comes with a Griswold Gold membership. But when we have these inside bars, what we do is we look for these extensive breaks, these big moves. So here we gapped up, but we had a big move. Here again, we gapped up, but we've had a big move. We go back, here was another gap, but a big move. Here was another one. We ran all the way up before it came down, and this is the part where you have to make sure you're taking your profits and you're not just holding on to things. I mean, if you would have held on, you still would have done really, really well, because NEO continued to trend up off of that inside bar right here. But even if we go back to this inside bar, this one did fantastic as well. They don't always do that. We don't always tend to have really good breaks with the inside bars. But probability, and again, I'll always tell you guys, probability is the basis of every strategy that you look at. Whether it's the Strat or something completely different, probability is always the basis of it, and it can't be anything else, because nobody knows what the next candlestick is going to be. So we can say, based off of what we see and what we have, probability is X, Y, or Z. That's why we look at this the way we do. So inside bars, we have a probability of a really big break to the upside or the downside. For this one, because time frame continuity is to the upside, my hopes would be that it would trend to the upside. That doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a fantastic trade if it trends to the downside. Because if it does trend to the downside, the hourly is going to be red, the daily is going to be red. The weekly, because these 2 candles represent the week, are also going to be red. Same thing with the monthly and the quarterly are all going to turn red, because those are right now just based off of these 2 candles right here. So as we head off to DIA, DIA is a little bit of a tough one, because we had this 2 down that finished green. Okay, so for me, that tells me probability is for it to trend back up, but we are sitting with a shooter candle, meaning we have this body and then a wick that's at least 2 times the size of that body. So a little bit of indecision is not the right word, but discrepancy on which way this could go. So there's probability basis on both sides. And again, as we look at this, the majority is trending to the downside. So take it for what you will on DIA. This would not be on my top 5 just because there is that element of it could go either way. Pfizer, 2-up finished red, shooter candle. So this one, I would be confident in saying that we have the potential for this to trend down. We've got time frame continuity in our favor. We have the shooter candle. We have a 2-up that finished red. So we have a bunch of things. We also have Pfizer. Again, all we have to do is look at the yearly, the quarterly, the monthly, and we can go back in time and look on this daily chart to see what Pfizer has done over the year. That was our yearly trigger to go 2 down on the year. So, and I've been talking about Pfizer since January, since it started tumbling, and it just continues to do so. And we have a potential for a further downtrend off of this shooter candle on Pfizer. If you guys do have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat section on the right side, especially if you're watching live. If you're watching this as a recording, you can leave those questions down below in the comment section. You can do them on Twitter at Mr. Clark Griswold. You can find me there. I'm also on Instagram. I have a Discord. That link is in the description below. It's free to join. Okay, so you can ask your questions in any of those places. We move to Datadog. So Datadog also has this 2 down that finished green. It's got really good time frame continuity to the upside. So we can look for those calls at $98.97. On to Etsy. So here's the thing, guys, and we talk about probability all the time, and I'm going to talk about it again. So right here we had this hammer candle, and we talked yesterday about the possibility of Etsy trending to the upside. It didn't. We continued to trend down. So we're left with the same thing again, this hammer candle. So probability-wise, we're going to say, yes, it has the probability and a high probability of it trending to the upside. So we can look for those calls at 85.36. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. If it does, make sure you guys have your risk in place. Make sure you know where you're getting out of the trade. Because anybody, guys, my kids could come to this computer and press a buy button and get into a trade. But it's their risk assessment and the risk management and how they get out of the trade that will let them know and maybe not let them know, but make them become successful traders. It's the risk assessment for anybody. It's the risk management. It's knowing when to get out of a trade and not holding on for hope. Okay? We don't hold on for hope. We have a set of rules with this strategy, with the strat, and we follow them. And if you don't follow them, you're going to get yourself into trouble. We move on to BA, Boeing. So I wanted to talk about Boeing, not because there's necessarily a setup here, but you see these 2 pink lines. So those were the weekly inside bar triggers. So if I go to the weekly chart on Boeing, you can see we had that inside bar and we broke to the upside. Okay, so I'm telling you now that if I'm looking for a day trade off of this, I can do that based off of the break of this outside bar. Okay, so if we continue to trend back up above, and I know we're just slightly above that pink trigger line for the weekly, but if we open, let's say here at 214, 212.54, and we continue to trend up, that's a trade that I would look for if we break this trigger point, or even if we break the high of this wick, would be another entry point for me on this daily, okay? And that could be your daily trade off of that 1-3 setup. Inside bar, outside bar. So we go to Alibaba. Alibaba with a hammer candle. Not a great hammer candle, but it is a hammer candle. So we look for the calls there at 84.69. And our first targets just go to the very top of that wick. And that's the setup for Alibaba. Cisco Systems, same thing, okay, guys? So we talked about this one yesterday as well, where we had this 2 down that finished green. Probability would tell us that we're trending up. Well, it didn't. We gapped, but then we did move back up after it gapped down in the morning. Okay? So we did trend up, but it was after a gap. Okay? So we're going to look for the same thing tomorrow on Cisco. We're going to look for a 2 green. We're going to look for our trigger at $51.57. If you don't know how to play the gaps, I have a gap playlist. There's about 3 or 4 videos in there that'll show you how I like to play the gaps. There's a bunch of different ways. It's how I like to play it. And again, it's probability based. Everything is. Don't be misled by anybody telling you that they know what the next candlestick's going to be, that they know what's going to happen. They have a probability and a basis based on, past successes of what could possibly or potentially happen, but no one knows 100%. Especially not in the retail trader game like most of us are on Twitter or on YouTube or on Instagram or any of those platforms. Okay, so we go to IBM. IBM, same thing we just talked about. We had that 2 down finish green. We were looking for it to trend up. It didn't. It went down, but it finished green. So we're going to look for it to trend back up again. Triggers at 134.31. And we also have this trigger for the weekly as well on IBM. So that's something, again, to be cognizant of on IBM. We move on to MU. MU, so this is, there's no setup here, but I wanted to show you guys something again. So this broke off of the inside bar, and I talked about this yesterday on Micron. And I said if we triggered and we hit targets, we have the potential to go 2 down on the month, and you can turn this into a swing trade. So currently from 62.26 to 62.06, aftermarkets is this blue number, the post market. It's 61.99 currently. So this was a good trend. So you could look at swinging Micron now, and if you went into the monthly charts, the monthly video I don't have out yet, but we are going to get it done. This right here is the target for the monthly at 59.56. Doesn't mean we're going to hit that, but we have the potential to. We have the probability to hit that on the monthly chart for Micron. We'll hop back to the daily here and hop into SE with the 2 down green. Again, we did exactly what, and again, probability based, always is, 2 up red. We looked yesterday at the trigger on SE here, and we had the target here. Did exactly what it said it was going to do, and reversed back through that target. So you had the potential off of SE to have a successful trade there. Now again, guys, I'm telling you, this doesn't always work. Probability tells us it works most of the time, and that's why we're not YOLOing. We're not trading with our whole account. We're trading in increments. So if you have a $1,000 account, $100 worth of options or $200 worth of options. If you have a $10,000 account, maybe you're doing $500 worth of options or $1,000 worth of options. But I want to make sure that you always have that same amount to reinvest in the next trade, just so you're playing on an even playing field every single time. So that's the setup on SE, the 2 down, finish green, 58.67 calls. CL, so again, you could look at this as a little bit of conflict because we have the 2 up that finished red. So we can look for the puts at 76.66. We are 2 up on the week. This purple dotted line, this dashed purple line right here, that's our marker to potentially go outside bar on the week. Okay? So once we pass that line, we have a good chance of becoming an outside week. So a 3 bar on the week. That's the 50% marker of the previous week's candle. So if I went into the weekly chart, this is the previous week's candle. That's the halfway point. So if we trend to the bottom of that halfway point through that, we have good potential to become outside bar. Okay? That's Sarah Strat Sniper's 50% rule. Airbnb, inside bar, we are 2 up on the quarterly, the 3-month chart. That's that purple line right there. So we'll see if we continue to trend up off of this inside bar off of Airbnb or if we come back to the downside. Time frame continuity on the higher time frames looks really, really good. BAC, 2 up red. We're going to look for puts at 28.94 there. BIDU, 2 down green. We're going to look for calls to come back to the upside at 142.34 trigger. Okay, and then we'll put in that first target together there at 146.81. Citibank, inside bar preceded by a 3 bar, so a 3-1 setup. And these don't happen very often. They're pretty rare. So you see that gold bar there, that's part of my indicator, as is the white outside bar marker, the yellow inside bar, the time frame continuity, this 50% marker that you can put on the day, the week, the month. That's all part of my indicator, as are these candlestick numbers for you beginners. Okay? Even if you've been using it for a long time and you want to have those candlestick numbers on there, that's fine as well too. But that's all part of the indicator. Can be purchased separately or as part of the Griswold Gold membership. Let's go back in time to see the last time we had the 3-1. We didn't hit targets, but we had a good bump off of this trigger here. We'll go see one more. This one gapped up, but we had a really, really good run off of that 3-1, okay? So that's what we're looking for, a big run off of those 3-1 setups. That's on Citigroup. Probably going to be in the top 5. Okay, we move on to eBay. eBay has an inside bar hammer candle. It is red, but it is a hammer candle. We are 2 up on the week. We've cracked that weekly trigger mark there. We've got time frame continuity to the upside. So calls at 45.27 or puts at 44.63. A couple things in our favor for that one. Inside bar on Walt Disney DIS. We are 2 up on the week on Disney as well. So calls at 90.39, puts at 89.25. And we can do target 1 to the top side and target 1 to the bottom side, depending on which way Disney trends on Thursday. DraftKings, 2 down, finish green, hammer candle. So we can look for those calls at 26.17. It is a 2 down green. It is a hammer candle. I believe Tesla is on the list, Marlin. So we'll go through that in a second here as we come down to it. GE, inside bar. Calls at 108.99, puts at 107.76, targets at the top and bottom of that previous red bar. That's for GE. INTC. Okay, so INTC is another one of those where we don't have a typical setup. But if we're looking at the weekly chart, we've got last week's high and last week's low, which is also an inside bar. So that's what those 2 pink lines represent, an inside bar on the previous week. So there it is. We are still currently trading on an inside bar. We've got full time frame continuity outside of the year. We're looking to break that trigger on the weekly. So if I was looking for a day trade and I didn't have a great day trade setup anywhere, INTC is a perfect example where we're about to break 2 down on the week. If we do break that, that becomes a day trade or a weekly swing. But as we're already coming into Thursday, it's a little tough to make that swing trade unless you're looking into next week as well. But that's the setup on INTC. Macy's, 2 down green, hammer candle. So we look for those calls at 16.41. Good time frame in our favor. And we are... This was the yearly to go 2 down, and we've started to trend back up past that. So if we look at it, there's our 2 down. We've come up a little bit. We'll see how Macy's plays out the rest of the year, even the rest of the month or the quarterly. PG, Procter & Gamble, time frame continuity in our favor. 2 up on the month already here. Inside bar, so we'll see how that plays out. Calls 152.46. Puts at 151.44. QCOM. This is another one I wanted to discuss. Not really a daily setup, but we've gone 2 up on the week right here. And then we've started to trend back down. And we've just tagged that 50% marker that we've talked about. Okay, so we are there. If we open up tomorrow and trend down through that 50% marker of last week, we can look for a potential outside bar. Okay, we can look for QCOM to trend down. Might not hit this outside, so we go to the week here. It might not hit this exact target, but we are at the 50% marker already as we come into Thursday. So we're just looking for a trigger of that 50% marker to get some gains. We go into Roku. So Roku, same kind of setup. There's not really a day setup on this. I don't like these because of this little tiny body here, but we are 2 up on the week already. So we have potential for 2 things here. We have potential to continue on our upward trend for our 2 up on the week, or if we break this bottom, we have the potential to go outside bar on Roku. Okay, so there's those 2 things on Roku. Starbucks, there's that 3-1 setup we talked about earlier. So calls at 99.33, puts at 98.29. The last time we had a 3-1 setup on the daily on Starbucks here, and it didn't turn out great, okay? And they don't always turn out great. Like we talked about, it's always probability based. So they don't always work. Some days they do, some days they don't. And we're just going to go back here to find the last. And this is how rare they are. So here's one right here. We opened, we triggered, we hit targets, and then we came back up. So this was a fantastic day trade for Starbucks. Okay, we move on to Target. There's the inside bar on TGT. We can look for calls at 134.49, puts at 132. What are we at there? 49. And this is our marker to go 2 up on the month for Target. And there you go, Marlon B. Tesla, inside bar. So Marlon said, what do you think of the gap on the daily? So yes, there's a gap that has to be filled here, and that's what he's talking about. There's no candlestick from here to here, okay? There is, but there's this big gap. So when we have that gap, if Tesla trends to the downside, that becomes our second target, I think. Let me go back here and just make sure. Is what I like to do is make sure, and that's basically the second target. So if we're looking at Tesla, Tesla has potential to go, and this is crazy, guys, because anybody who thought Tesla wasn't going to come back up from, its $99 point at Christmas or January or whenever it was nuts. And if you would have bought it that time, I didn't, but if you would have bought it that time into Tesla, you're almost 200% above where you would have bought in December. You'd be up 200% on Tesla right now. So if you thought Tesla was going to, it could have gone lower, but if you thought it was going to stay at $100, you're crazy based on what Tesla is, because it's not just a car company. It's a lot more than that. It's AI. It's a technology company is what it is. Okay, so we look at Tesla. We've got full time frame continuity to the upside. We can look for those calls at 283.85, puts at 277.60. First target is 275. Gaps don't always get filled. They usually do. I would say that this is probably going to get filled at some point. There is another gap way down here as well at 240 to 235. Does it get filled? I don't know. They don't always get filled, but the majority of the time, they're going to get filled. So do we look at that? Yes, as a target, we do. We'll see how Tesla plays out. Marlon, if you have any specific questions about it, you can let me know. But that's the list, guys. That's the list for Thursday, July 6th. I put the list out for free every single day. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell. The bell will give you the notifications for when I do send these videos out. You can join me live on them. Whenever I put a learning tool video out, you'll get that notification as well. If you want the top 5s, that's part of the Griswold Gold membership. I also do one-on-ones as part of the membership. You get a 1-hour strat course that I've created. Takes you right from the easiest part to the hardest part. So feel free to look into that and join that as well if you guys are interested. Otherwise, I wish you guys nothing but the best. I wish you green. Have a great day. Have a great Thursday. Have a great trading day. Marlon, you're very welcome. And we will talk to you guys all on the next one.